I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses that would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hindquarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the 30-30. The skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What's up, everybody? How's it going out there tonight? Hope everyone is doing well. Those of you that watch it live with us tonight, those of you that will catch it later, sure do appreciate it. Thank you so very, very much. All right, got a great show lined up for you guys tonight. As always, got one half of the Basement Hangout duo joining us. Got Chad backstage and ready to go. Bob had some stuff that he had to do tonight, so he won't be with us, but Chad is backstage and get ready to come on. Hope everyone is doing well out there on this Tuesday evening. I appreciate you spending it with us. Thank you very, very much. All right, guys, before we get started, as always, want to ask everyone, please hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already. Sure would appreciate that, as always. Also, as always, if you have had an encounter and would like to come on and share it with me, I'd love to talk to you about that. You shoot me an email to Wayne at Paranormal World Productions.com. That is the first step in getting yourself on here to share your encounter. Said it a million times, guys. I'll keep saying it, especially with Bigfoot. Until we have one of these things that we can study, the best way, in my opinion, to learn about them is from eyewitnesses. If you've seen one, share what you've seen. That is the best way that we're going to learn about these things, unfortunately, because we've all seen that photos and videos and all that stuff is not going to put it, in my opinion. So we gotta lean heavy on the eyewitnesses. All right, shoot me that email if you've had an encounter. Want to remind everyone or tell everyone about Paranormal World Productions.com, our website. Head over there, show some support to all of the shows. Not only this one, but Sasquatch Odyssey and the guy, Chad, half of the Basement Hangout crew. They are on there too. They've recently joined our studios, so show them some love as well as the Kentucky X-Files and the True Crime Odyssey podcast. Check them all out. You head over to paranormalworldproductions.com and get us all in one spot. All right, guys, if you have any questions tonight for Chad, he is expecting them. Y'all know how it works by now. If you have a question, please don't hesitate to send that over. But if you do, please put them in all caps. My computer is lagging tonight, guys. That's why I keep stalling a little bit. I'm clicking a button, and 5 seconds later, it's popping up. I don't know what is going on. When I did my intro tonight, it wasn't showing that it was playing. Luckily, it was. So I don't know. I apologize for that if I'm a little bit off tonight. That is the reason. But yeah, guys, if y'all have any questions for Chad, please put those in all caps. And as always, if I don't ask, I'm not being an ass. I'm not ignoring you. I just didn't see it. So give it a little bit of time and type it out again. But make sure you do that in all caps. Just makes it a little bit easier for me to see. All right. And lastly, I'm going to tell everyone about Manimal Research on Facebook, our Facebook group. If you are not yet a member, we welcome you to come over there and join up. We have had a big, I guess, influx, whatever you want to say, of new members join over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, I really, really appreciate that. So guys, if you aren't a member of Manimal Research on Facebook, head over there and check us out, please. That's all of that. All right, let's see who we've got in here. Miss Naoma Finn, how you doing, ma'am? I hadn't talked to you in a while. I hope you are doing well. No, last time we talked, you weren't feeling well, so I hope you're feeling better. Someone on Facebook, I can't see who it is, wants to know who my hairstylist is. I don't. Me? I guess me. I don't know what is supposed to be meant by that, but I mean, if it's a compliment, thanks. David Pumpkins, a new one. Thank you so much for hanging out, bud. Miss Sandra Popper, always great to see you. Grasshopper, you are becoming a regular. Appreciate it, bud. And speaking of regulars, there is Carson. What's up, buddy? Craig. I guess that was Craig Roach that made the comment about my hair. He's just jealous because he doesn't have any. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump in there and get this thing started. If you guys are ready, I'm going to go ahead and bring Chad on. As I said, guys, Chad is half of the duo that makes up the Basement Hangout Podcast. Had a chance to hang out with Chad and Bob at the Smoky Mountain Conference. I've been talking to him for a little while. I went on their show. Now they're returning the favor, coming on this one, and I had a chance to guest host with Chad a couple of weeks ago, and I actually released that episode to Paranormal Odyssey. That will be, if you're a member, then you got it today. If you're not a member, I mean, what's wrong with you? You need to become a member. But if you're not, then you'll get that tomorrow. But yeah, as I was saying, those guys are really cool, doing a great job over there. And if you aren't following them, do yourself a favor and get over there and check them out. Mr. John Barachok said, "Hey, bud. What's up, buddy? Hope you're doing well." All right, let's bring Chad on. Chad,
what's up, Wayne?
How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. Welcome to the Basement Hangout.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, Chad, before we get going, tell everybody about, because I didn't know the whole backstory to the whole Basement Hangout podcast, how you guys got your start. Tell everybody a little bit about the podcast and just the premise of it. That's what all you guys do.
Yeah, man. So we started, what are we looking at? Almost 2 years now ago. Bob and I met through our wives at a party, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years ago. And we just kind of hit it off, drinking beers, having a good time. We had some kind of rapport that everybody noticed. And honestly, I wasn't even into podcasts at all. And we would just go back and forth with each other. And we were like, you know what? Everybody's doing a podcast. You and I have something going on here. Let's start it. And we did. And our first, I want to say 10 episodes was really just us hanging out in the basement, drinking beer, having fun. We didn't really think much of it. And then we subsequently learned that both of us were into paranormal. I didn't know he was into paranormal. He didn't know I was into paranormal, UFOs, Bigfoot, you name it. And once we realized that, our podcast just slowly started turning into a paranormal type podcast. Now we do cover lots of different topics. We've had comedians on. We've had, interviewees in the paranormal world. We've had, you name it, we've had it, but we do focus a little bit more on the paranormal aspect. And we've just been running with it ever since. But before I continue, Wayne, I would like to use your hairdresser as well. I think I could use it.
Well,
yours is a little nicer than mine.
You need a little bit more than a hairdresser. You need something to work with.
I used to have nice thick hair at one point in my life, but those days are over.
Yeah. You might get there again, buddy. You heard of Rogan?
Yeah, well, I want something else to work, so I've heard.
Oh, there you go.
I've heard there's a trade-off that I may not be willing to do.
Yeah, that's a topic for another time, isn't it? Now, you were telling me about just how you guys get together. I think it's awesome. The whole name of the podcast is the Basement Hangout, and that's literally what you're doing. One night a week, you go and tell the story, but one night a week you get permission from your wives to hang out, shoot the shit, and do this, right?
That's right. And our moniker used to be, subscribe and give us more downloads so that our wives aren't super pissed. That used to be back in the day, our moniker, because, to them, this is just a drinking buddies hobby. We've turned it into a lot more than that over time, gotten some traction and whatnot, but we literally get together typically one day a week, one night after work, after our day jobs. I finished my basement about a year ago. I got a big shuffleboard, and if anybody knows what that is, it's not the kind on the boat, where you're throwing stuff on the deck. It's actually a shuffleboard that it's like a pool table, but it's long and skinny. So we get together, we drink beers, we listen to music, we play shuffleboard. We're 50-50 against each other. And then when we're done with a session of shuffleboard, we come in to the studio you see here, which is also in the basement. And we do our podcast, which typically is an interview. And these days, most of our interviews, 90%, I would say, is revolving around paranormal. And so, yeah, that's what we do. We have a lot of fun with it. And we're turning it into something.
Yeah. Yes, you are. Now, Chad, I think the question that's on most everyone's mind is, by the time you guys get to record each night that you're doing this, how inebriated are you?
Anywhere between lightly and heavily, depending on the night. Never 0%. I will say that.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that the better shows are the ones where you're more heavily, correct?
Yeah, and those are the crazy ones. Usually, if we have an episode where we don't have an interviewee and it's just Bob and I, going back and forth at each other, those are the ones that can sometimes get a little bit raunchy. So those are earmuffs episodes, we call it. If anybody's seen that movie back in the day, Hide Your Kids.
Yes, sir.
We had one from about a year and a half ago where we discovered a new cryptid that was called the Crawler. And some people would call that the Skinwalker. Some people think that, it's another type of cryptid, but it's become known as the Crawler. And we went off the rails. We had a lot to drink that night. And we recently released that, I want to say a month or two ago, as a redux, because our newer subscribers have heard sort of our more tame version of ourselves. And we reserve the right to go back to our untamed version. And so we released that as a redux just to let everybody know who we are. And that is definitely an earmuffs episode.
Yeah, I got your YouTube channel pulled up right there. Miss Naoma Thin, I just put that up a second ago, said that she just went and subscribed. So, guys, do that real quick. Head over
I
there.
really appreciate that.
Yeah, give these guys some more subscriptions. You are getting up there close to 1,000. Let's get them there.
Yeah, now we started the YouTube channel pretty early on, but we didn't really pay much attention to it. We are just now, over the last few months, starting to pay more attention to it. Um, the videos didn't have us on it. Now we're going to see us in studio for pretty much every episode. So it's starting to pick up a little bit.
Now, Chad, your day job, you are in computers, right?
That's right.
So you're familiar with all that stuff. So your page looks a little better than mine. I'm a little bit jealous. I like the little preview, the guy talk, or the preview of the episode when you first click on there. I've noticed that from a couple of people's pages, but you're doing it better than I am.
Well, I appreciate that. But you're up there close to 2,000 subscribers. So what's more important?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah, guys, head over there and give them a sub if you don't mind. All right, spoke a little bit earlier about getting to meet you guys at the conference, Smoky Mountain Conference, and speaking of that, Mr. Flat Rock is in here. You had a chance to meet Flat Rock. He was the gentleman that told y'all the crazy stories about the stuff that's going on his property.
Oh, yeah, that was super interesting. And I remember one photo he showed us in particular of what looked like a poltergeist standing outside of his house. Like, I don't know if it was peering in a window or what, but that was pretty crazy looking. And then we heard the dog in the woods going bonkers and then potentially getting killed. And you hear the yelp and then the dog's quiet. And, he told us that he had a family of big feet back there. So that was quite interesting. We met a lot of and talked to a lot of interesting people about their experiences out there. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Now, this one gentleman in particular kind of had you and I off to the side talking for a little bit, and he asked each of us what was the most scared, I guess, the scariest encounter, most scary thing that we had ever personally encountered. And I shared with them a Bigfoot story that I've shared with everyone, so I'm not going to do that. But you shared a story with them, and I thought it was pretty damn creepy. And it would go really, really well tonight if you wanted to share that encounter with the listeners.
Yeah, so, all of the experiences, and I wouldn't even say that I've had, but all the experiences that somehow touched my life happen through people I know. I have never myself encountered a Bigfoot or seen a poltergeist or anything like that. But my wife, who is Hispanic, and her mom is a little bit one of those people that kind of just has things happen or senses things that the rest of us don't. I don't know if they have an extra sense or if they're just in tune with the other realm of our reality that a lot of us don't perceive. But her husband worked at a church, and the church was giving away, the church was giving away some of the stuff that had been donated that they hadn't been able to get rid of. And one of those things was a nice suitcase. So he came home, and my wife and my mother-in-law were in the kitchen cooking. And he comes home and he says, "Hey, look at this beautiful suitcase I just got for free from the church. We can use this the next time we travel to South America." And my mother-in-law looked at him and said, "Get that thing out of here. Baggage literally comes with other people's baggage. And I don't want that in my house because I don't know what energy it's going to bring." And they kind of turned, and my wife and my mother-in-law were just talking to each other while they kept cooking. They saw out of the corner of their eye from the kitchen, my father-in-law pick up the suitcase and walk it out to the back. And they were wondering, why is he taking it out back? There was a shed out there, so they figured he's just going to store it in the shed while he, until trash night, and then he's going to dump it in the trash. Well, a couple minutes go by, this, that, the other thing. They watched him walk out. They never saw him come back in the back door. And next thing they know, he walks into the kitchen from upstairs, and they're looking at him and they're saying, "How did you get here? We just watched you go outside, out the back door." And he said, "What are you talking about? I went upstairs to use the restroom." And then they looked around the corner of the kitchen and there was the suitcase still sitting there. So they saw something pick up the suitcase, walk it out, go out the back door, but that actually never happened. The dad never went out. My father-in-law never went out. The suitcase never was walked out. So they turned white as a ghost at that point because they agreed with each other that they saw something really freaky. My wife is telling me this story at night, and me being the eternal skeptic, we're in bed, ready to go to sleep. I'm like, yeah. You guys probably just imagine things, or, the usual how you explain things away. And it wasn't even necessarily that I didn't believe her, but I'm one of those guys where if you just kind of ignore it, it'll go away, right? You won't have to think about it anymore. Well, at that moment when I said that, like, yeah, you guys probably just imagined this, I heard a bang in the closet, my bedroom walk-in closet. And I'm like, what the heck is that? My wife looks at me and she goes, that's odd. So I get up and I go into my walk-in closet, and there was a suitcase that had been sitting on the top shelf for over a year, secure, always there. I had not used it in forever. And sure enough, in that moment when I was saying this was nonsense, that thing fell off the top shelf in my walk-in closet and hit the floor with a bang. And at that point, I just walked back to the bed, got in bed, and my wife said, "So what was it?" And I said, "It was my suitcase that had been sitting there forever." And she was like, "See, I told you." And it even followed us home. And I was a little wigged out. She was wigged out, but me being the, let's keep everything calm husband type deal, I said, yeah, it's just a coincidence. That thing was probably teetering on the edge for months, and a moth landed on it and it fell off the edge. But those are the kinds of experiences that I've had. Basically it starts with somebody else. And, that was freaky. I haven't really thought about it too much, but whenever anybody asks me what's the scariest moment, I mean, for me, that's the one, because it actually touched me.
That's creepy as hell. And like Tea Time with Tiffany here says, doppelgangers, those are some of the creepiest stories I've ever been told. And that's exactly what it sounds like. That's what happened with you guys.
So it's funny though, because I was actually, before we came here to do this podcast, this live session, I was taking my daughter to her soccer practice, and she's in this travel soccer team, and they have this beautiful facility where there's a upstairs bar actually, and you can overlook the field and watch the girls play. And I'm sitting there and I'm drinking a beer, and I look over, and here's this guy that I used to hang out with 15 years ago. I mean, it was him, exactly him, in the face, every facial feature except for one issue. The dude that I used to hang out with was 5'7" on a good day, and this dude was 6'2", tall and lanky, but his face was exactly the same. And the first thought that went through my head is everybody has at least one doppelganger. So it's kind of funny that she brought that up.
Yeah, man. I've got you met Dr. John Baranchuk at the conference, right? My good friend John Baranchuk.
Yeah, I'm really bad with names. What's your name again? Your name's Steve, right?
No, he's the psychologist.
Okay. Oh, yes. Yes.
He's recovering from cancer.
Yes.
He's got a really, really cool doppelganger story, and it's always freaked me out since the first time he told me. And he doesn't mind that I share it, and it's been a while since I have, so I'll share it real quick. But what happened with him was he was on a Bigfoot expedition, actually, and they went up to check out this little graveyard, and there was like 4 or 5 of them in the group, including another gentleman around, I think it was around his age. I'm probably butchering the story, but I'll give you the gist. The gentleman that goes up with him, it has his young daughter, not young, she's an adult, but 18, 19, 20-year-old daughter that's with them on the expedition. And those two are a part of the 4 or 5 that's going up to the graveyard. They're all 4 or 5 walking up. They're all talking, laughing, having a good time, all that good stuff. They get up there. They spent 15, 20 minutes at the graveyard. Really, really cool graveyard. I've been there. It's creepy as hell. And then they start walking back down. Well, as they're walking back down, and it's only about a 30 or 40-yard walk, but it's through the woods, like winding through the woods. So you can't really see in front of you all that well. Well, as they're walking back down, they notice that the guy's daughter isn't with them. Like, what the hell? Where did she go? So they're freaking out. And she was just with us. We were just talking to her. So they decided to hurry up and double time back to the truck, because at this point they're going to have to get help, because they think she's missing. Something's happened. Well, they get back down there and she's sitting on the truck. And they said, like, sitting on the bed of the truck. And they said, "How did you beat us down here?" And she said, "What are you talking about? I didn't even go up there. I've been here the whole time. Y'all got up and left without me. I've been sitting here waiting on you guys to get back." They talked to her the whole time. And she never went.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, how do you even explain something like that? Like, where do you fit that in? It's not ghosts, it's not Bigfoot, it's not cryptids. What even is that? It's a dimensional thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, a time slip, maybe.
Yeah. So my wife and I actually have had several things happen to us where we've been convinced that we entered, and this is going to sound like Hollywood, like Marvel movies or whatever, but we entered a different dimension. And I don't even know if we came back from that dimension. We might be in that dimension right now, Wayne. We might have changed over. We came to the neighborhood where we live now about 6 years ago. 1 year in, there was another couple that bought a house, and we met them for the first time. Very nice. And the husband was in the Air Force, and he was somewhat tall, like 6 foot, 6'1", a little bit older. He had gray hair, lanky, skinny guy, and met him, shook his hand, talked to him for a bit. And both of us did. And, that's it. We met them. We hung out for a little while, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward about maybe 9 months. We didn't see them again for a while. We're at another party in the neighborhood. My neighborhood has a lot of parties, believe it or not, which is nice. So we're at another party in the neighborhood, and we see the same wife, and we go and we say hi, and we're talking. And then this guy walks up, looks completely different. He's got a darker complexion. He's got darker hair. He's got a dark beard. And instead of being 6'1", he's maybe 5'10", 5'9", a little bit chunky, certainly not skinny, lanky. And she says, "Oh, you guys remember my husband?" And we're like, no, we don't actually don't remember him. We didn't want to say that her husband used to be different. And we're thinking to ourselves, man, did she get divorced and remarried in the span of 9 months? What's going on here? So we were later talking to one of our other neighbors, and we asked that question, who lived right next door to them. And we said, did she get divorced and remarried in the last 9 months? And they're like, "What are you talking about? It's the same guy as always." And we're just like, what is happening? I don't know how to explain that. When we tell this story to most people, they think we're nuts, but we're 100% sure that we saw a different guy when we first met them. So I don't know how to explain that kind of thing.
Now, was she having an affair? I mean, that's the elephant in the room right there.
Having an affair and then introducing all of her neighbors to, her mister as her husband, that would be a little strange.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. Now, your wife, you mentioned she is Hispanic. Now, was she born over there, or is she born here?
She was born in South America. She moved here when she was 16. So, I mean, at this point, she's basically American, but she grew up as a kid over there.
They got some really out there crazy stuff that they believe in or follow, don't they?
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's heard of the chupacabra, but that's one of the things that they talk about a lot.
Yeah, it seems like every time I hear like Hispanic lore, there's always mention of like witchcraft or
Yes.
something like that. Does she have any stories, or has she shared any stories like related with, like, I don't want to say voodoo, but like witchcraft stuff?
So nothing in particular, like not a certain instance, but there has been discussion of that they believed in that heavily. And they believed that when, a child is growing up. So one of the things they truly believe in is, and there's many cultures that do this actually, when you have your baby and that baby's super beautiful, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, it's so beautiful. I love your baby," this and that and the other thing. They will actually do things to try to lessen the
Wow.
amount that people love the baby, because somewhere in there inevitably is somebody who's jealous, right? Maybe they haven't been able to have children, maybe something happened to their child, who knows what it is, and they could potentially either just through pure negative energy or possibly overt, kind of like putting on a hex, do something with, causing that child to have, we'll just call it bad luck. And then when a child like that it does experience something where they think this kid is just having bad luck, it could be illnesses, it could be, they're not well, you know, socially, whatever you call it, then they'll do stuff like go to a witch doctor. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
we've talked about that. It's quite common out there. They definitely believe in that kind of a thing. Which is interesting. I mean,
Now,
thousands of years. Uh-huh.
did you say that, did I hear you out? And you said that they will do something to make a baby less beautiful? Is that?
So I don't know about in the Hispanic culture, but I know that, for example, in some of Indian cultures, they will like put a mark like with ash on the baby to make it look not quite as beautiful. And it's become more of a tradition than anything, but that's what's behind it.
Hmm.
So that kind of a thing.
Wow. I'd be in trouble. I make beautiful babies.
Yes, you would be in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us are going to wish for non-beautiful babies, right? Although all babies are beautiful, basically.
They are. They are. That's crazy, man.
It's
That's
only
weird.
when they turn into asshole adults that we have to worry about
Or teenagers.
them. Yes.
Yeah, you have that ahead of you. You haven't reached that yet, but I have,
Yeah.
and they become assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, another thing that they believe in are little people. So you have the chupacabra, you have little people. I think in many South American, or actually not even South American, Central and South American, they're called duende. I don't know
Mhm.
if you've heard that term.
I've heard that term. Yeah.
Yeah, so that always fascinates me. And there's a YouTube video floating out there somewhere on an Indian reservation where they encountered duende. It's in one of our episodes from, I don't know, a year and a half ago. I'd have to find that video, but it's super interesting. Of course, you
Was
never know what's staged and what's not, but
Yeah, and that's what sucks. But
yeah.
was it a couple of like really small people-looking things that were like ducking behind, like hiding behind a, I want to say like a tractor or something?
Yes, actually that might be the exact video, and they kept shining a spotlight on it, and they
Yeah.
would hear noises, and then they'd
Yep.
see it for like a split second. That's the one.
Yeah, they'd cut the spotlight on, it would be there, and it would duck back, and they would, yeah, go cut it
Yeah,
off and
that
do the
I
whole
love
thing.
that video. Yeah.
Man, it sucks that we live in the era that we live in, and people are out there just trying to get one over on everybody. But I wish shit like that would be real. I really do. I
Well,
want it.
the thing is, you said in the intro that photos and videos aren't going to do it anymore, and that's especially true now because with AI advancing the way it is, anybody can create a video of anything. And if you just add a little bit of shadow and a little bit of like, I'm not sure, it looks as real as anything else we see. You know?
Yeah, yeah. We got our first question for you, Miss, one of my favorite people, Miss Naoma Finn. My computer's being stupid as hell. I clicked on it 7 seconds ago, and it's still not up. There you go.
So I see the question, La Llorona. Yes.
Yeah, has
She
your
has
wife
spoken
ever
about it.
spoken about La Llorona or whatever?
Yeah, my wife has spoken about La Llorona. Not in terms of like ever having seen it or anything like that, but just the fact that it's a very well known. It's like the Mothman in the U.S., right?
Mm.
Everybody's heard of the Mothman prophecies. Everybody over there has heard of La Llorona. And I'm going to murder this. I'm not very familiar with it, but basically, it's a woman who, you'll see walking down the street or whatever, and it's like upset wife or mother or something really bad happened. But I'm sure one of your followers there can correct me.
I think I did a short on that. I hadn't done one in a while, and I was just thinking that right before we came on tonight. I'm going to start doing the shorts that I used to do, and what I would do is I've got like 30 something of them that I've done. I take a not very well known topic in like the cryptid or urban legend or folklore, and I do a little 15-20 minute video on it. I find an article and I read about it and show some pictures and stuff. And it seems like I might have covered that. You can't really speak to exactly what it is. Do you
Yeah.
remember? Do you remember, Chad? Can you
Me,
talk a little bit
no.
more about what it was?
About La Llorona?
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot. I just know that if I remember correctly, it's a woman in a gown. She's very poltergeist-ish, if that's a word. And people see her like walking down the street. She'll
And
look
if
at
she
you.
try to get you to follow her, like lead you out to your doom or something like that.
I think that's part of the lore. Yeah.
Yeah. Tiffany here is saying that she's agreeing with me. She thinks that I did cover it. Like I said, I did. I covered 30 something of them. And I think that was one of them. Man, they got some creepy stuff down there. They really
Oh,
do.
and I think Naoma, is it Naoma Finn?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think the legend began when she murdered her own children, and now she is doomed to roam the world seeking out bad children. Wow.
There you go.
I'm going
That's
to
why we.
remind my kids to be nice to each other.
That's why we keep Naoma around. Because Chad, you need. I don't know if you ever heard of Naoma Finn, but her channel is Open to Doubt, and she's the one that went and gave you a subscription. So pay her back and go give her one. But she does awesome stories on like folklore and stuff. She's been on my show probably more than anyone has, and she was the storyteller at my event that I hold each year. Last year, she came out and just absolutely killed it, and we did a campfire storytelling session that she led, and she's up on all that stuff. She's really good. So,
Very nice. I will definitely give a follow back, and maybe I'll even reach out to have her on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for her, but I believe she would.
No, you're speaking for her, Wayne. You just confirmed her appearance on our show. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Naomi, did you hear that? All right. Chad, you got any more creepy stuff that you've either experienced firsthand in your life or tells?
Yeah, so the other like interdimensional thing, I don't know where to put this, to be honest, but again, it was me and my wife. We lived somewhere else at this point, and we, had frequented all the restaurants in the area. We were tired of them all. We wanted something new. We ate out a lot. We still do, unfortunately. And so there was this small like strip mall. You'd call it like a Greek / pizzeria place. You know those places. They're pretty normal there. But we're like, let's go check it out. We never really thought much about it, but we hadn't eaten there. So we walked up there. It's about 7:00. And we walk through the front door, and there's nobody at the hostess stand. So we stand there, we wait for a little while. We kind of peer into the dining room, and everybody looks happy. So we're like, oh, let's go eat here. And so finally, the hostess comes over and she seats us, and we're seated right in the middle of the dining room. And it's a smallish dining room, maybe 10 or 15 total tables, pizzeria style. And we sit down, and everybody's just happy. Every table is has people on it. People are eating, and they're talking, and they're laughing, and forks are clanking, and We're just like, man, everybody's so happy here. This is going to be awesome. So we look at the menu and we're looking at the appetizers, and the appetizers were very, shall I say, pedestrian. It was like, cheese dip and chips, fried mozzarella sticks, that kind of a thing, which I love fried mozzarella sticks, but nonetheless, we're like, okay, this is pretty average stuff, but let's order the cheese dip and chips. The other thing we noticed was the waiters and waitresses were walking around with blank faces. They didn't smile. They weren't upset. They were just blank. So we're like, oh, that's a little odd, but you don't think much of it. They bring out the appetizer, and I swear to God, it must have been like Velveeta melted in a bowl with like chunks of ground beef thrown into it. It was just not good. So we're eating that, and we're like, man, what is going on here? Meanwhile, forks clanking, people are laughing, they're having great conversations, they're enjoying themselves. Again, every table is filled on there. And we're like, what's going on? So then we order our main dishes, and I think I ordered spaghetti bolognese. She ordered some seafood dish. She loves seafood. They bring that out. It was absolutely horrendous. One of the worst things I've ever eaten in my life. Again, waiter comes, brings the plate, just sets it down in front of us, barely makes eye contact, walks away. And we're just kind of like, what is happening in this place? The food is terrible. Why is everybody so happy? And you look around, and again, people are smiling, laughing, forks are clanking. It's like if you were going to create a soundstage for a movie, that's what you would hear. And nobody got up, nobody left. We finished a quarter of our meal because it was so bad. Asked for the check, they brought it to us, and we walked out of there. We paid in full. We didn't complain or anything. We walked out of there, and we turned around to watch. And the waiters and waitresses were walking around straight-faced, not making eye contact with anybody, not talking. People were still eating, clanking their forks, smiling and laughing and chit-chatting. And we just left. And we looked at each other in the parking lot, and we said, what just happened? What was that? So somebody said they were intoxicated. That's possible, but it was 7:00. The place was full. It was in the corner of a small strip mall in American suburbia. It was just bizarre. Now, I don't know. It could just be all coincidence or whatever, but I haven't experienced that ever since. And my wife and I to this day think that was like a black hole of, I don't even know what. Aliens are operating that place as a front. I'm not sure, man, but it was super strange.
That's creepy as hell. That just sounds like just this creepy ass episode of something you'd see on like Netflix or something.
It felt like Twilight Zone. It felt like Twilight. We said that. It was like we would just enter Twilight Zone.
That's so weird, man. There's still I wonder how many times like you and your wife were just, y'all were on it that night and noticing, but I wonder how many times each of us as people have been out in situations like that and just not noticed,
Yeah.
Like what if the food would have been good? Do you think you guys would have noticed or had any problem?
Well, that would have kind of explained why everyone was so happy, right?
Yeah.
When you sit down, and everybody knows this, right? You're married or you're not married, but you have a significant other, and you go and you finally make the decision to go out and eat, and your experience is terrible, right? The waiter's angry or upset, or they bring you the wrong stuff, or they screw it up and then they argue with you. I mean, it ruins your night, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you have kids and you don't get out a lot, and you go out like this one time in 2 months as on a date night or something, and the whole thing is ruined, it's like a huge waste of time and money. So if these people had gone out and eaten delicious food, I could see them being like, yes, success, we're all happy. But given that this food was trash, I just don't know how to explain. And the fact that the waiters and waitresses were so like Stepford wives, it was just bizarre, but who knows? We could have been reading too much into it.
Now, is that place still there?
I don't know. You know, we moved away from that area shortly after, and we've never been back.
Wow.
I don't want to go back and end up abducted by aliens or something or whatever the heck was going on in there.
Yeah. Now I notice on the show Basement Hangout that you guys talk about UFO stuff pretty
Yes.
often, right?
Correct.
So is that something that is that like a topic that you and Bob are equally passionate about, or?
I've always been super interested in the UFO subject. I can remember when I was a little kid. My sisters are both significantly older than me, like 10 or 15 years older than me. And they're within a year of each other. And I can remember them reading Whitley Strieber's Communion book. And it had the picture, the very first incarnation of the now classic gray alien on the cover, which is where that came from. And I can remember looking at that and going, holy crap, I got to look into this. So I read that book. I think I was 11. I probably shouldn't have read it. And I was just scared out of my mind from that book. I'm sure if I read it now, it wouldn't be a big deal. But, ever since then, I've been pretty interested. And now that you mention it, I did have, when I was a kid, I think I was 11 or 12 again. I can remember being in my my house, in my bedroom, and my bed used to be pushed right up against the window. And it was a pretty big picture window in this room for some reason. And I could kind of look back and, look up to the sky through that window because my headboard, I didn't even have a headboard. It was just the mattress pushed up. And, excuse me, I see this ball of light flying across the sky, coming pretty much towards our house, but it was way up high, like where you'd see an airplane. I didn't think much of it. It just looked like an airplane. But the thing is that it wasn't flashing. It was just a single ball of light. But still, I wasn't thinking much of it. And then all of a sudden, it broke up into three. And you had the initial ball of light still coming forward. And then you had the two coming out to the side to make almost a perfect triangle in the path that they were flying. And I can remember looking at that going, well, that's odd because they've moved too far apart to be a single airplane or craft or whatever. It's now three balls of light and they're moving away from each other in an equidistant fashion. And then they moved over the house and I didn't see it anymore and I didn't think much of it. But literally like a minute later, my mom comes up, opens the door to my room and said, hey, the power just went out. We need to reset your alarm clock so you can wake up for school in the morning. And I thought that was a little odd.
Wow.
So that's my one and only experience with an unidentified flying object. But I've been super interested in the UFO subject for, a long time. And with everything that's going on right now with regards to the congressional hearings and David Grush coming out and saying that there's these programs, these black programs that are reverse engineering alien tech. And one of the Congress people said to him, who should we drag up here in front of Congress who's involved in these programs? And he said, I can give you a list of friendly and confrontational witnesses from the government, from these agencies. And she said, when can you give me that list? And he said, I'll give it to you right after the hearing. And I was like, damn, we're getting there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I don't guess anything's come of that just yet, huh?
Well, things move slow in Washington, unfortunately, as we all know.
Yeah. Those congressional hearings, that was pretty recent, like last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like, I think 2 weeks ago now.
2 weeks.
But they were quite amazing. And the claims that he's made are pretty phenomenal. I mean, one of the claims he's made, for example, is that the Vatican has been involved ever since prior to World War II. That basically Mussolini's forces recovered a crashed craft, and once World War II ended and Mussolini was deposed, that the Italian authorities notified the U.S. authorities through the Vatican, who the U.S. authorities then came to confiscate the craft material and brought it back to the U.S. This is a high-level U.S. intelligence, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency guy standing in front of Congress after having sworn on the Bible and telling this information. I mean, it's pretty freaking phenomenal. He's either a psychopath or we are on our way to disclosure.
We're getting somewhere, ain't we?
It seems that way, but who knows?
No. It gives me hope, being a Bigfoot guy, that as adamant as the government and everyone has been over the years that, we are the only life and there are no UFOs or anything like that. But now they're starting to admit it. It gives me hope as a Bigfoot guy that one day they'll do the same thing with Sasquatch.
Yeah, and the other thing is, this push and pull between woo or not woo when it comes to Bigfoot. A lot of people with regards to the orbs and that kind of stuff that people see in the woods after or prior to seeing a Bigfoot, are they related? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know where you stand on the woo subject, but it would be nice to at least wrap up one piece of the puzzle and keep moving forward.
Yeah, that would be nice. Where are you? Where do you stand on the Bigfoot stuff? Everyone knows about where I stand.
So I've never seen one. I've never been squatching. I'd love to come out and squatch with you one of these days. I was one of those guys, a year and a half ago. So I'm fairly new to this, but heavily, ensconced in it now. But I'm one of those guys who literally thought Bigfoot was one thing. You remember that? Like Bigfoot's one guy.
Yeah.
Roaming around somewhere. And, through starting this podcast and going down a bunch of rabbit holes on paranormal and, listening to podcasts about Bigfoot, especially ones where they have experiencers on, and you have cops and you have doctors and you have people that are, just your everyday guys, hunters out there who, not to be hyperbolic, but piss their pants and they will no longer hunt, even though that was like the thing that they did. That was their passion. To me, like there's something to that. So I've become a believer. Yes, I would like to see something besides the Patty film at some point that's reputable, but I just can't dismiss all these stories by, people that if I met them on the street or at a party or whatever, I would shake their hand and have a conversation with them. They're not just, crazy off the rails. So, I don't know how to square that with, oh, it's all fake. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, everybody's not lying. Everybody's not crazy. They're reputable people that are seeing these things. I mean, I sound like a broken record. It's foolish. I think it's so foolish to dismiss the idea just because science won't recognize it, and because science has to have a body. I mean, they're not going to recognize it until they have a specimen.
Right.
So I mean, we don't have one. I mean, a lot of people will argue that we do have them, a specimen. Like there's all kind of stories. The Marble Mountain incident. I was watching TV the other day, and watching a Bigfoot documentary. Surprise, surprise. That they talked about the Marble Mountain incident. Are you familiar with that? I think it's Marble Mountain, Nevada, I believe.
I don't think. No, I'm not.
Yeah, somebody in the audience correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Marble Mountain, Nevada, and it was in the 90s, 80s or the 90s. Tiffany, if you can look that up, please. Yeah, there was a big fire, a forest fire that wiped out over half the mountain or a good portion of the mountain, and they had emergency personnel up there, and one of the workers came across a burnt Bigfoot. It was this huge, I think the person described it as the face was not a man, but not an ape. It was somewhere in between, and it was covered in hair, and it was very, very badly burnt over a big portion of its body. And they actually had like medical personnel come in there to work on it to try to save its life. And story goes, again, that's all this is a story because nobody can verify it. That the story goes that a helicopter or something, government officials came in and got the body and took it. So a lot of people think that the government, because of that incident, people think that the government has or did have a live specimen of a Bigfoot.
Yeah. So can I share my screen? Can you make me a presenter?
I don't know how to do that.
Oh,
How
okay.
do I do that?
I'm not sure. Actually, my present button is lit up. Let me see if I can do this.
Yeah, see if you can.
Yeah, it looks like I can. Sweet.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now. Are you seeing this?
I'll have to add it.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying.
I think it's up. It's up.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. So we had Rod Moorhead on a long time ago. Of course, everybody knows Ron Moorhead and the Sierra Sound. So back in September of 2021, and in doing our due diligence prior to having him on, I found this dispatch from the U.S. State Department, which was about Yeti in Nepal from 1959. Look at that, November 30, 1959. And it says here, there are at present 3 regulations applicable only to expeditions searching for the Yeti. The regulations are to be observed in addition to the 15 clauses as listed, blah, 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 blah. But the regulations are royalty of 5,000 Indian currency will have to be paid to the government of Nepal for a permit to carry out an expedition in search of Yeti. In case Yeti is traced, it can be photographed or caught alive, but it must not be killed or shot. Except in an emergency arising out of self-defense, all photographs taken of the animal must be surrendered to the government of Nepal. News and reports throwing light on the actual existence of the creature must be submitted to the government of Nepal as soon as they are available and must not in any way be given out to the press or reporters for publicity. And let's see. Yeah, this Zoom is not working well for me. Let's see if I can zoom out. Where is the Zoom button? I could have sworn I saw it. Here we go. Without the permission of the government of Nepal, for the ambassador, counselor of embassy, action copy, Department of State. Look at this. This is the catalogs.archives.gov. This is an official State Department document from 1959. So, when people say the government knows something, to me, that's a pretty big deal right there.
Yeah. That's amazing. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, I just came across that by happenstance. There's also a field manual floating out there from the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, I've talked about it.
You've seen that one?
I've talked about it, but go ahead, because I'm not well versed on it. If you know about it, go ahead.
I mean, basically it was for, when you are out in the wilderness in Washington State, here are the things to look for and be wary of. And it lists all these animals, the common ones you would think of and how to react to them. Like if you see a bear, do this, that, and the other thing. And on one of the pages, it lists Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And it says, do not approach. I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. That's, and I've made that argument before. I've talked about it, and then the skeptics, they'll all dismiss it and talk it away. But I believe what you're talking about, they did that, they wrote that, whatever it is, the book or the article, whatever, back in the 70s, if I remember right. And the cost the money that they put into putting that field report together was something like $200,000 or something back then. I mean, if you're spending that kind of money and it's the government, are you going to include Bigfoot as a joke?
Right. It doesn't seem likely.
No. Not at all.
And of course, there's lots of stories of, park rangers and people, go to them and say, oh my God, I had this really strange experience, blah, blah, blah. They don't want to tell you, but then they do. I think I saw a Bigfoot, and the park ranger's like, yep. And they're not surprised at all. I mean, I don't, you can't dismiss that.
I've got a park ranger that I can go to right now, and
Is that right?
he'll talk to me. He won't do it on record because he's afraid of losing his job, but he'll tell me that he's seen one a couple of times, and he's over this certain area that is very, very heavily used by recreational use, and there's one or two that are in there. He's been screamed at more than a couple of times. He's seen it once, I think. He's had rocks thrown at him, and he's been screamed at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what's your theory on why they're so elusive?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, do you consider the woo factor? I mean, can they cloak? Can they disappear? Can they go through portals? I don't know. My personal belief, I believe they use cave systems. I believe that's where they're hanging out. That's just my personal opinion. A lot of people will argue that, but I haven't heard a good argument against it as of yet.
Yeah, somewhere there's a cave system that has Dogman, Sasquatch, the Crawler, and a couple other things interbreeding.
Yeah,
I'd hate to see what's coming out of there.
You're right. All right, Chad, tell everybody about the Basement Hangout, where they can find it. Just go ahead and plug anything that you would like to plug.
All right, I appreciate that. So we started out as an audio-focused podcast, so you can find us on your favorite podcast app, whatever it happens to be. Apple Podcasts. If you have an Apple device, go check us out. Hit the subscribe button and write a review. I don't know, Wayne, why are reviews on Apple Podcasts so important? I don't even know.
Man, does it cost money to leave them?
No.
I don't think it does. I mean, it's never cost. I've never paid to leave a review, but I got the same question, man. I can't get anybody.
Yeah, but even if we could, like, why does it matter? I guess because it boosts you in the rankings or something.
You're asking why it's so important?
Yeah.
From what I've heard, the more reviews you get, the more they boost you, the more they push your show, the closer to the front you get.
I see.
It doesn't matter if it's a 1-star or a 5, but nobody leave me a 1. Y'all don't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the number of reviews has a lot to do with how much they push your show.
Okay, so if you have an Apple device, find the Basement Hangout on there, write us a review. Even I'll go as far as saying, even if you want to give me a 1-star, but you got to write something. Don't just hit 1-star. You got to hit 1-star and be as nasty as possible, and we will read that out on live on the next episode, and we'll love it. Also, write the Paranormal Odyssey review, but give it 5 stars. YouTube, we're now on, as I mentioned. You can find us at youtube.com/@thebasement-hangout. We've got a lot of videos there, but we hadn't really done much with the actual video. Like, we weren't on camera. That's changing, where you'll now see us in studio. Go check us out. Hit that subscribe button. And thebasementhangout.com has all of the links to all of the platforms, blah, 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 blah. So thank you, Wayne.
Yeah. Tell Bob I love him.
Sorry, what's that?
I said, tell Bob I love him.
Oh, yes, we'll do. Absolutely.
Next time, gotta get both of you guys on. Chad, I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I had a blast. Thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah, had a really, really good time. I appreciate hanging out with you guys over there. And
when's your next? I'm sorry, before you sign off, when's your next squatching event?
Me and my buddy Kevin are going out this weekend, but as far as a big one, I don't know. We've got an event coming up, but we got to talk about it. So I don't know. I should have just said I don't know.
Okay. Well, let me know when you do, because I'd love to try to convince my wife to let me make the trek.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Love to have you, man.
Sweet.
All right, man. You enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right. See you, bud. All right, guys, my computer is being so stupid tonight. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what's going on. I click on something and it literally takes like 4 or 5 seconds before it actually does what I want it to do. Anyway, how about that? Chad is a really good dude. Like I said, I've had a chance to go on their show a couple of times. Bob is equally cool. I wish he could have come and hang on. Those two, you can tell just how good friends they are, and they enjoy doing what they do. And y'all know how it is. No matter what you're doing, if you've got a friend doing it with you, it's more fun. So, guys, check them out over at the Basement Hangout. I would appreciate it. And I appreciate y'all hanging out with me tonight. As always, thank you for all that you do. Y'all stay cool. And remember, y'all be good to yourselves, be good to each other. And I'll see you next time.